How's it going, YouTube? It's LB Ninja 7, your resident Mistweaver Monk here, back from vacation, and today I have a guide video for Mistweaver in Dragonflight. This is my first guide video in a long time, but I love making these, and there are a lot of changes to Mistweaver coming into Dragonflight. As you hear, I'm a little sick, but that should not stop me. Let's jump right into it. So, up first, I want to say that it is going to be a pretty heavy split between Mythic Plus and Raid. Completely different play styles. Maybe not play styles, just builds basically. So I'm gonna try to break it down into two sections here. So first I'm gonna go over the talents though. And up first we're gonna look at the Mythic Plus talents. So here on screen I have kind of the build that I've landed on for Mythic Plus. I'm blocking something on the screen, but I'm not selecting those talents here. So let's start off with the Monk talent tree. So if you look, the main difference between Mythic Plus and Raid, as you know, is that you're going to take a lot more damage options in Mythic Plus because you really want to add to that damage to your key. But this is what we're going to take in Mythic Plus. So as you'll notice, we start off down here at Summon White Tiger Statue. It's not that great. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it does damage. So this is the only option here that does damage, so we will take it. Now, Resonant Fist, we're going to put 2 points in because it's kind of dumb. I mean, it has a low chance to proc, but when it procs, it's a good bit of damage. I've had keys where it doesn't do a lot of damage, but I've also had keys where it's like the top on the charts. So maybe I'll remember to put some pictures of that on the screen, but it's very good. So then we're just going to keep working our way down. The best way to look at these talent trees is to start from the bottom. What do you want? What's your target? And then try to branch your way back up to the top and see if you can afford points elsewhere. So we're gonna go Fatal Touch. This was a legendary back in Shadowlands, and it was kind of underwhelming. It was actually very underwhelming. I recorded a few videos with it and never posted them because it was just not good. But this is just a good damage option. Honestly, it doesn't add up to a lot of damage over key, but as I've touched on in past videos, Touch of Death is very good utility because it allows us to decide when things die. So it's very good, and this reduces the cooldown and makes it hit harder. So not gonna complain about that. Then we're gonna take this defensive because defensives are always good. Eye of the Tiger will just add a tiny bit of damage to our Tiger Palm, add a little dot to it, so we're gonna take that. Fast Feet is gonna add a lot of damage to our Rising Sun Kick, and then a little bit of damage to Spinning Crane Kick. We're gonna take that Spinning Crane Kick as basically our only way to spam AoE damage, and Rising Sun Kick is just our biggest single target damaging ability. This is great. We gotta put 2 points in that. It's just really good. That is basically all of the damage options on this tree. Now let's go over a couple of the utility options on this tree that we're taking for Mythic Plus. Starting off, we're going to take our Interrupt. They gave it to us, they listened, and I am super excited about this. It's so nice to be able to come up to a pack like those two giant hounds in Tazavesh Street and know that I can control if one of them's interrupted, whereas before I'd have to rely on DPS and tanks. So it's just really nice to have. So we're definitely going to take that. We definitely want to utilize that. It's just our best ability. We're still going to have Para. We're basically only going to use this for skips and for an extra impromptu interrupt, basically. But can't complain about that. You can honestly get away with going without this one. Uh, Maybe taking Tiger Tail Sweep and Vigorous Expulsion instead, but I like Paralysis, so I'm sticking to Paralysis. Detox, Improved Detox, it's kind of like a must-have. There will be some dungeons where this doesn't even apply, where these additional, like the poison and disease effects don't happen, but I think as a blanket statement, it's just going to be nice to have this. It's 1 point and it can save someone, so I think I'd rather take it to every dungeon and it not apply to some instead of taking it to some and then accidentally not bringing it to one of the ones where it doesn't apply. So I'm taking Improved Detox. And then finally, I want to talk about Rop. We know Ring of Peace, it's great. It also pairs with Paralysis as well to do some skips. So we're going to take that. And then also Tiger's Lust. Can't not mention Tiger's Lust. It is a good way to get someone out of a route, get yourself out of a route. Just give yourself a speed buff. I give myself a speed buff between packs all the time. So this is kind of what I've liked to go on the talent tree for the monk talent tree for Mythic Plus. There are some other good talents like Hasty Provocation. Like I've had some success with this, but it's just not as good as kind of what I've landed on. Also, like there's other defensives that you might want to take, but the problem is, and you'll find that with when you're trying to construct your own talent trees, is uh, they don't really give you that many points to spend at the bottom, so you kind of have to um, you kind of just have to pick one like route at the bottom. So yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to the Mistweaver tree, and this is still for Mythic Plus. I went with Feline Stomp. Now, there are arguments to go Bone Dust Brew and go. I like Attenuation a little better than Bountiful Brew, but since it's already a 1 minute cooldown, reducing that is better. But Feline Stomp, the resets that you can get, if I remember, I'll put some up on screen. It is kind of nutty. It's very nutty. And so that's why I went Feline Stomp. All these other ones, they kind of just heal, except for Invoker's Light, it gives you haste. Whenever you cast Yulon, this could be an option. Just getting a bunch of haste, and then you would also get to go Secret Infusion. That would be really cool. Give yourself some Verse or some Crit, and then a bunch of haste, and then just start spinning Crane Kick. That'd be really fun, but it's just, honestly, it's not as good in Mythic Plus as Feline Stomp. This just adds up to a lot of damage over time with the amount of resets you get. And it lets you cast Spinning Crane Kick to heal. So it's really sweet. It's really sweet. See, your Spinning Crane Kick heals five nearby allies. Now this heal is not that good. Honestly, it'll heal them for like 500 a tick, and it won't really do a ton of healing, but it's still just nice to have. Honestly, I think they could get away with buffing this a little, giving us a little bit more of our healing back that we're losing from Shadowlands, from Fallen Order, but if they don't, it's not the end of the world. Next up, we gotta go Zimpulse. They actually nerfed this. It was, I don't really remember what they did. They either doubled the time and half the damage or vice versa. But this, honestly, you cast it on your tank and it just pops everyone around them. So one thing that I like to do, we had an extra point to spin here in the middle section of the tree, so I like to go here. Echoing Reverberation. This just makes your Impulse activate again at a reduced rate if you have both of your mists on the target. So um, as you'll see in some of my gameplay videos that are coming out soon, I'll just apply both of my mists to the tank, put what's it called, Zen Pulse on them, and it'll just pop everything twice. So it's okay. It's okay. It's just another button to have in the back of your mind, press every 30 seconds. So it's good. Now, Revival is kind of in an awkward spot in the tree. As you know, Revival is not really great in Mythic Plus. It's kind of just a mass dispel. It doesn't really heal that much when it only hits 5 targets, but it's kind of in a spot where we had to take it. It's just the best option here. So I went with Revival. Now, there will be some fights where you'll want Restoral. I think that will be dungeon specific, so keep that in mind. But I went with Revival just for the video. So next up, I want to talk about Chi-Chi. Y'all know Chi-Chi is really good. But here we can actually get Chi-Chi down to... We could get Chi-Chi down to a 1 minute cooldown, but I don't even think I took that. It's just, you just don't have enough slots, really, to put into it. So that could be a potential playstyle. I think that would have to go with the Invoker's Delight playstyle, but Chi-Chi, you want to take it, so it's just another cooldown that you have to survive a pack, a big pool. And then last up, the other important thing, I think I've actually touched on everything, is Ancient Teachings of the Monastery. It did get nerfed, so your 25k heals that would come from your Rising Sun kicks are now just going to be 15,000. That's okay, but the where they've kind of compensated that is now your Blackout kicks cleaving everyone. So your Blackout kicks will hit 2 additional targets. And remember, you can stack up those blackout kicks with Teachings of the Monastery and hit up to 9 blackout kicks per button press. So it might even be 12. I don't know, but you get a lot of blackout kicks, a lot more than usual because they are AoE now. So your blackout kick was buffed, but your Rising Sun kick was nerfed. So that is going to do it for the Mythic Plus talents. Basically, just trying to take as much damage as you can while still being able to heal the key. I do quickly want to touch on Vivify. Vivify is very strong in Mythic Plus. It's very strong now. This is just what makes your Vivify cleave, and it'll be better with your Renewing Mist kind of spreading around with all these. And then this buffs your Vivify healing. It'll make it heal a lot. It heals for like 15,000, and that cleaves. And every 10 seconds your Vivify is instant. This is very good, but I wish they wouldn't have changed it. I wish it was every Vivify is instant. I know that's wishful thinking, or I would at least wish they brought this down to 5 seconds. I just think it sucks having to pull off of the pack, stop fist weaving, and start actually cast healing. And we kind of have to do that a ton now. We have to do that a ton in Dragonflight. We've gotten a lot worse at keeping up with the damage coming out because Fallen Order was just that strong of an ability. So this is just a strong option. You kind of have to take it in Mythic Plus, and you'll see in raid content too. It's just very strong. So definitely take that. So that is actually it for the the Mythic Plus Mistweaver talent. All right, so now we're going to look at the raid Mistweaver talents, and there are a lot of options. There are so many options to take in a raid, but you kind of have to commit to one or the other. And in today's video, we're going to commit to fist weaving. I know it is kind of just what everyone's going to play, but just know that there will be future videos going over some of the other playstyles. A lot of these things, even a slight tweak, could completely change the playstyle. But let's go and look at these talents right here. So. Up first, I want to say I did not take a bottom row talent. The only one that provides healing is Summon Jade Serpent Statue, and it's honestly not that great. So, but we are going to take Save Them All. It will increase people's healing whenever, or it'll increase our healing uh, by 20%, which is a ton. But we have to heal someone that's really low. I mean, that does happen in raid, right? Especially when we hit revival. But also any amount of hots that we have out, if an essence font tick will heal someone below 35%, all of our healings just buffed by 20%. So that's going to be really strong. Also, this is one of our 3 new auras that we have. So this one increases everyone's healing taken. So, but they have to be really close to you. So we're going to have to make sure that we stay on top of everyone. But we also have some other auras which I want to touch on really quick. Wind walking is what gives people movement speed, and generous pour will give everyone avoidance. This one's really strong. These are options that you need to keep in the back of your mind. You need to figure out how you can get there if you don't have another monk in your party. Here I'm assuming you do, and I'm hoping you do, that they can give wind walking if you want it, or generous pour if um, that one's kind of necessary, I think. But in this case, we're going to have to act like we have another monk in our party. So, but this kind of not going a bottom row kind of allows us to take some other defensive options. So let's go over those. So we're going to go Chi Burst. We know this one. It hits anyone that it passes through. It says healing is reduced beyond 6 targets, so it will get weaker as it travels. But it just, you shoot out a line, it heals a ton of people. So that one's really good. It adds to our overall healing. Dampen Harm is a great defensive. We're going to take that Fortifying Brew. Here, it doesn't really matter which one you take. I think the best go-to would just be to reduce the cooldown by 2 minutes of Fortifying Brew. So it is now a 4-minute cooldown. That kind of sucks, but that is another defensive option. I kind of went ahead and said that we're going to keep Spearhand Strike. Having an interrupt is just invaluable in a lot of raid fights, so we're going to want to just go ahead and say that we're going to take it as a blanket statement. Um, and then we're still going to want to buff our Rising Sun Kick damage. Spinning Crane Kick, that doesn't really matter here. And then we're going to buff all of our damage just because we're going to be taking Ancient Teachings down later on in the line. So that's still going to be very viable. We're also going to still be keeping this Vivify package on both trees. So Vivify cleaving is still going to be very good in raid. Every 10 seconds we're going to want to press Vivify. It's going to be that strong. And finally, Grace the Crane. I put only 1 point into this, but you could also put 2 points. Think of this as a defensive because it just increases your healing taken. Also, you don't want to be giving your other healers some boosted healing because that just does not give us healing. So, and then more defensive options. So this is kind of where I went with this tree, and this is what I think we're going to kind of shift toward. I don't think we're going to go Serpent Statue. We might. I would like it. I do enjoy playing with it, but it's just not that strong, honestly. So now let's get to the fun tree. This is our Mistweaver tree. Now, a lot of it is going to be exactly like Shadowlands, and that's kind of a shame, but a lot of the things that we were taking to Shadowlands just were very strong. So, first up, we got Rising Mist. I chose this one. There are some other good options. Like, you could go 1 minute Yulan, but you'd have to have a lot of innervates and a lot of mana, and I can't do that. So, I can't advise you guys to do that and just empty your mana bar. So, I am going to go Rising Mist here. And then we're going to do this one, Renewing Mist. It can proc another Enveloping Mist. So every Renewing Mist we're gonna take is going to be spreading some Enveloping Mist. Also, Rapid Diffusion, Rising Sun Kick, and Enveloping Mist are going to be sending out other Renewing Mists. So basically, these two talents, I'm kind of grouping them together. They're going to be giving us just extra hots out on people. And not only are they just hots, they will be adding new targets possibly for our Rising Mist to be proccing. Any extra uh, and renewing mist will be uh, gosh, I cannot speak, will be allowing our Vivify to hit another target. So these are just going to be very important, and not to mention, Rising Sun Kick will be extending. It still extends those hots. So all these extra hots that we're going to be applying um, will be getting extended. So I also want to touch really quickly. I'm going to jump up to the top of the tree. Essence font, we're still using it. I took it on the Mythic Plus tree, but it's not as much of our rotation now, especially since Phalanx Stomp activates Ancient Teachings of the Monastery, but Essence Font and Raid is just invaluable. It hits so many targets, it's so much healing. We get that Mastery proc on every single bolt that it shoots out, and then now we get Font of Life. It's just going to add a tiny little extra heal to that bolt, not to the Mastery proc, but to the bolt itself. But this will decrease the cooldown of Thunder Focus Tea, or at least have a chance to. So, Thunder Focus Tea, already a 30-second cooldown, that's really great. So, I really quickly want to move this one to a little further down. um, you could go Yulon's Whisper. It used to be a legendary. It wasn't that good, but basically every time you Thunder Focus Tea, you're going to be shooting out a breath of healing. And you could go that. You could go that over Refreshing Jade Wind, and it would be viable, especially with this Font of Life. It would be really cool, and honestly, we might actually end up doing that. The only thing is Refreshing Jade Wind is very strong. It adds up to a ton of healing over a fight because it hits 6 targets for 6,000 healing, and it's one button press. So it's very strong, but the problem is it takes up a lot of mana. You press this about 30 times in a fight, and you've used, I can't even do that much math. You've used at least a mana bar's worth of mana. So if your mana becomes an issue with this build, I would highly recommend swapping over to Yulon's Whisper, and honestly, maybe even just start off there. But that's kind of interchangeable. Also, Mistwrap's interchangeable with that too. Mistwrap is really good, especially with all the enveloping mist that we're going to be getting out. It's going to be very good. So now we can start back up at the bottom with this one, Jade Bond. I chose this over the 1 minute Yulon because, oh, first off, we're going Yulon over Chi-Ji. That should be obvious in Raid. Yulon is so strong in Raid. But 1 minute Yulon seems very dangerous to our mana bar. Enveloping Mist is our most expensive over fight ability, and when we cast Yulon, that's all we're going to be spamming for the most part, other than Rising Sun Kick. So having it up every minute is a little risky, but having it up probably every I'm just going to throw a number out here, 2.5 minutes is still very good, but that Gust of Mist healing is going to be increased. So I'm choosing Jade Bond. You might want to go 1 minute Yulon. It is more powerful. Don't get me wrong, it's way more powerful than this one. It's just I don't think in with a limited mana bar with only 50,000 mana, it's not going to be hitting as we would like it. We just won't get as much value as its potential is higher, but its cost is higher as well. So then Enveloping Breath. This just is what Yulon will shoot out of her mouth every time that we cast Enveloping Mist. So we want to take that. It just adds up to a lot of healing, and it buffs all of our other healing sources, which all these hots that we're going to have out, it's going to be very nice. And then we have overflowing mist. So every time we have an enveloping mist out on someone, I put 2 points into this, but you could honestly get away with 1 point and kind of put a point in Yulon's Whisper if you wanted to. But well, I guess you couldn't. But move a point maybe to I would go Spirit of the Crane. And it just every time someone takes damage while they have a mist on or an enveloping mist, it will heal them for a chunk of their health. This is really good, especially when you have it on tanks. It'll add up to a ton of healing over fight. I'm excited to see how all these perform. This is kind of where I went. Oh, and Revival should be without saying. I mean, you can go either one, depending on the fight. But I am personally going to just say Revival because we're used to it. This is the build that I have landed on. I think that in Raid we are so strong, whereas in Mythic Plus we are a little lackluster. We do have to just pull off and heal and cast a lot more often than I'd like, but in Raid that is not an issue. Other healers can pull off and do all the necessary healing while we can stay fist weaving, and over a fight that will just add up to more healing and help out in the long run and really help us fulfill the role that we're meant to do, as opposed to trying to do an impression of another type of healer and cast. So all these extra hots. The jury's still out if this is going to be as good as Fallen Order was in, especially Sanctum of Domination. But losing Fallen Order is a big deal. It was our whole playstyle throughout Shadowlands. It was very strong. but they have really taken that strength and kind of spread it out across a lot of different sources. We're going to have, instead of like 15 healing sources, we're going to have like 20, 25 per fight. So hopefully it adds up to about the same healing, if not more, and hopefully it's just as fun. Hey guys, it's me from the future. Really quick, I forgot to include this, but I want to talk about stat weights. Stats are a very important part to being successful as a healer and as a DPS anything. Stats are very important in this game, so I wanted to go over those and discuss what our stat priority will be in Dragonflight. So first things first, versatility is our number one stat. We want to push that as high as possible. This is going to help us in keys because it's going to make us tankier. It will also buff our damage as well as our healing. So it's just our best all-around stat. It will just give us the most overall healing and damage from any of our stats. Next up, we want to look for Leech. Leech is insane. If you can find Leech on an item and it doesn't have Verse on it, but it has some of the other stats, that's great. Leech is a great stat for healing, especially in raid. It just buffs your numbers by a good bit, so you want to be hunting down that Leech as a tertiary stat. But back to the main stats. Honestly, all three of the other stats, haste, mastery, and crit, are kind of a toss-up. It used to be that crit was our number one stat party because we were working off of Fallen Order, and we could reset the cooldown based on our crit, but that's not a thing in Dragonflight. So crit has fallen quite a bit, fallen from the mountain, fallen to verse, and haste and mastery are starting to show their real strength. Mastery will only buff your healing. It will not even touch your damage. So you can go 100% mastery build and your damage would be very lackluster. But it gives quite a bit of healing every time that we basically target something for a heal, or revival hits them, or uh, essence font bolts hit someone, you'll get a proc of your gust of mist, and it does a big chunk of healing. So that adds up over a fight with the amount of times we press those buttons. So it's a very good healing stat. Now crit will still also buff our damage and our healing because it's a flat indicator. So if we have 24% crit, we can expect our healing and damage to go up by an average of 24%. So it basically does exactly how much healing and damage over a fight that it says it does. The other ones are harder to calculate. So, but crit, it's nice to have some crit alongside the other stats. So if we have a high verse with a good chunk of crit, then those big hits from that verse are going to hit even harder whenever they crit. So it's nice to have some crit, but we don't need to max out on crit like we did in Shadowlands. So next up is haste. Haste is a tough one to talk about. Um, it's very good. It'll help us cycle through our kicks a lot faster, and that's always good, especially in raid when we want to do as many Rising Sun kicks as possible. That is made possible with a lot of haste, so that's good. But I must advise you guys to be careful with haste because the more haste you have, the more mana you're using, especially when you're casting a lot of enveloping mists when Yu'lon is out. So push your haste as high as you can and as high as you can get away with without dumping all of your mana in the first 5 seconds of a fight. So that is the stats. Basically, if I had to give you an order, I would say verse number one, and then haste, crit, and mastery are all equal to each other. Is probably where I would put it. But it's you could go with whatever you like. If you'd like to do more healing, or see bigger healing numbers, then mastery is good. But if you like to see more numbers more often, haste is good. And then if you just like crits, then crit is good. I mean, they're all really good. They will buff your numbers a lot, but verse is definitely going to be your go-to. So that is the stats. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into our gameplay discussion, how we're going to play the actual class. So in Mythic Plus, I want to start out with, I want to say we are losing Fallen Order as our best cooldown. And it used to be we had Fallen Order, Revival, and Chi-Ji, but now we're just going to have Chi-Ji and Revival. So those are our only major cooldowns, and it kind of sucks. The healing is a lot harder to do in this tier, honestly. I have to be completely honest, can't sugarcoat it. Fallen Order was very good. It was very good, and it could heal through almost any amount of damage. So it sucks that we're losing that, but we really have to focus on what we do better now, and that is our damage. Our damage is a little bit better. We're still not on par with the other classes, but I think it's close. So I will not be doing actual gameplay here. I'm actually just going to be fighting some ads and discussing it. But if you want some footage, some gameplay, I will be posting. a video today that is me doing a Mythic Plus key, and in that video I'm going to discuss what I've been doing in my personal life. Went out of the country, got married. I talk some crap about my boss, so if you like some tea, definitely spilling it in that video. So stay tuned for that. But for now, let's talk about our Mythic Plus. Yeah, so like I said, healing is a lot harder to do. Ancient Teachings took a big nerf, and I say that because it actually is a nerf for Mythic Plus, and we lose Fallen Order. Those are two big hits to our healing. Now, can we still do the healing required to do a key? Yes, but I still think it's going to be hard for us to even push high keys unless we have a very solid tank in DPS. So let's get into what we do have. So we still have Chi-Ji. I've posted plenty of videos about Chi-Ji before in the past, so feel free to go watch those videos. But for now, I'm just quickly going to say, while you have Chi-Ji out, every kick that you do, so spinning crane kick, blackout kick, and rising sun kick, every kick, including your additional blackout kicks, will give you a stack. And once you have 3 stacks, your next enveloping mist is free. If you have 2 stacks, it costs 66% of the mana and time to cast it, or it'll be reduced by 66%. And then if you have 1 stack, it will be 33% less mana and time to cast it. So basically, you summon Chi-Ji, you Rising Sun kick, and you do 2 blackout kicks or 2 spinning crane kicks or some combination of those kicks, and then it'll reduce your enveloping mist depending on how many stacks you have. So it's really good. It's a really good cooldown. She heals for a lot while she's out, and free enveloping mists are really good. So you're gonna want to take that. Um, then we have our damage options, our new damage options. We have Zen Pulse. This one, the target, you have to put it on a friendly target, and then it'll shoot damage out from them. It'll heal them a little bit. It's not a lot of healing. But if you took this talent, the one that reverberates it, then if you have both of your mists on that target, it will pulse a second time. So that's when you actually can rack up some good damage. So as you'll see in that video that I'm going to post, the gameplay video if you watch it, what I like to do is when I come up to a pack, when I come up to a new pack and my tank's about to pull it, I'll go ahead and I'll put both of my mists on my tank. So as you see, I just put both my mists on, and they're on for a couple seconds, and then I'm going to, well, they're probably about to fall off. Let me see. So put both my mists on. See, if that were the tank, I wouldn't have to do this. But then I Zen Pulse myself, pulse out some damage, and then it reverberated a second time. So that's how you want to play with Zen Pulse. You want to activate it every 30 seconds. When it's on cooldown, I'm just going to throw this out so I can get back to talking. You're going to want to use it right off cooldown so that you get the max value out of it over the key, and you're going to want to get that extra value of its reverberation. So definitely want to do that. So next up, I want to talk about this cooldown, Summon White Tiger Statue. You put down a statue, and it sits there and it just pulses out damage. It lasts 30 seconds, so if you put it at the start of one pack, try and put it in a spot to where your tank is going to pull the next pack. So if you can put it between 2 packs, hope it doesn't pull them. Just basically, if you can set up for it to have 2 packs worth of value, that's really good. But honestly, just press this every 2 minutes and don't think about it too much. It's not that much damage. It has some potential to do some damage, but you really have to pull around it, and it's just not one of those abilities. It's not like a Vesper Totem where you're gonna want to pull around it. Yeah, so those are these 2 new damage. This is what we've gained. Now, something that's changed is Feline Stomp. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Feline Stomp now procs Ancient Teaching of the Monastery. So before, when we would cast Essence Font, that would be our only way to proc Ancient Teaching of the Monastery. And Essence Font's just it's not that good. It's not good to sit there and channel a healing spell in Mythic Plus. You want to be getting more out of your time and do damage, or top everyone up in an instant. You want more value per button press. And now that we get to do damage while activating Ancient Teachings, it's big game. It is a big buff. So how Phalanx Stomp works is it shoots out a line, and this line is our new home. We want to stay on this line as much as possible, because watch the cooldown of Phalanx Stomp. Hopefully I get a reset here. Yeah, it resets, and it resets often. You'll be in a fight, a boss fight, it'll reset about 10 times. Now, it doesn't do a lot of damage. It's probably like a blackout kick or 2's worth of damage, but it hits in a line and it hits multiple targets, so that adds up to a lot of damage, especially in AoE reset. Um, times. So you're going to want to stand in this Phalanx Stomp as much as possible. So that means that that will take a little bit of thought, not much. I think we can all do it. It's not that much thinking. You're going to want to think where your tank is going to move. If you're pulling this pack and you know that there's a swirly here, then you want to shoot it elsewhere. Wherever your tank's about to move, that's where you want to drop your Phalanx Stomp. So you always, always, always want to be playing on top of your Phalanx Stomp. If you kill a pack while your Phalanx Stomp's out and you're moving to the next pack, try to stand on it for a little bit more and, shoot out your Renewing Mist or cast anything. In essence, fine. Try and get that reset before you move to the next pack so it's off cooldown. And that's as simple as it gets with Phalanx Stomp. You're just going to want to try and have Phalanx Stomp every 15 seconds so that you get Ancient Teachings up for the full amount of time. And if not, then you're going to have to cast Essence Font to reproc your Ancient Teachings. Now, you're going to want a weak aura or some indicator, like here I have my buff bar, that's all I'm using at the moment, but I'm thinking about bringing back some weak auras, but you're going to want to know what your Ancient Teachings timer is. That way you know when it's about to run out, when you need to, if your Phalanx Stomp is not off cooldown, and it won't be for another few seconds, if you need to cast Essence Font to get it back rolling, but you basically want, while you're in combat, you want Ancient Teachings rolling the whole time. So now let's move on to Thunder Focus Tea. Thunder Focus Tea, I will make it as simple as possible and just drill this into your brain 100% of the time, unless you took Secret Infusion. 100% of the time, you're going to want to use Thunder Focus Tea on Rising Sun Kick. If you took Secret Infusion, it's up to you basically, but basically I would probably do Enveloping Mist if I'm being honest. But Rising Sun Kick giving Verse there is still probably just as good. But for Mythic Plus, if you're not using Secret Infusion, Thunder Focus Tea goes with Rising Sun Kick. And what I mean by that is Rising Sun Kick has a 10-second cooldown. But oh, and this honestly this also applies in Raid too. Rising Sun Kick has a 10-second cooldown, but if I use Thunder Focus Tea and then Rising Sun Kick, it goes down to a 2-second cooldown. Which, with Ancient Teachings of the Monastery, that is our best way to heal someone. If someone's low, it's honestly just our best way to heal them, is Rising Sun Kick. So you'll want that off cooldown as much as possible, and the best way to do that is through Thunder Focus Tea. Also, if you're taking any talents that add additional effects to your Rising Sun Kicks, like Rapid Diffusion or like Rising Mist, that is another just an added benefit to always doing it on Rising Sun Kick. But 100% of the time, maybe 99% of the time, you're going to want to do it on Rising Sun Kick. So those are those two cooldowns, and honestly, this class is that simple. Now, I will say, like I've said multiple times in this video, healing has got a lot harder. We can't just fall back and let Fallen Order do all the healing. So, if the pack starts to really beat into you, if there's just so much repeated healing that your Ancient Teachings cannot keep up, you're going to have to roll away. So say that we're in combat. You're going to have to roll away and start channeling Soothing Mist. Now, Soothing Mist is a weird ability. It's just a channel you focus on a target and you are connected. You're shooting healing to them, but it allows you to also cast other abilities while channeling that. So we're gonna roll away. Say our tank's taking a beating. We're gonna channel. Can I even heal him? Yeah, channel Soothing Mist, and then we're gonna Enveloping Mist, and then we're gonna Vivify. That's it. Soothing Mist, Enveloping Mist, Vivify. The reason why we don't just go Soothing Mist and then start spamming Vivify is because Enveloping Mist will actually buff the healing that our Vivifies do, so you'll get more out of it over time, and also your tank's going to continue taking damage after you topped them up, so just having an extra hot is always good. So remember, if the whole party's taking damage, we're going to roll away. We're going to start doing our casting. It sucks, but it is just a reality of Mistweaver at the moment. Those are just how we're gonna have to play. So let's see, is there anything else to go over for Mythic Plus? Really quickly, I do want to go over something actually. This is a little important. I mentioned a skip that you could do. Notice how this ad right here, this Royal Arcanist, we're not gonna use this one because there's two stacked on top of each other. We're gonna use this one. He has a range. If I were to walk like about here, I would pull him. But Paralysis says that the distance it would take to pull him is reduced. So I can Paralysis and get even closer to him without entering combat. And then if I enter combat, oops. If I Ring of Peace him further, that does not put him in combat either. So I can boop him away. So if we're trying to get past a certain spot, and there's one ad in the way, you can paralysis him and then boop him to the side and run this way. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. So hopefully this is enough to get you guys through Mythic Plus. For the most part, you're going to want to in single target or two target fights, you're going to want to just cycle these three abilities: Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, and Tiger Palm. Just basically your single target rotation. That is how you'll do the most damage. But in three or more target scenarios, Spinning Crane Kick spam is your best option. That is how you can maximize your damage. Now, with exactly three targets, it's pretty close between Spinning Crane Kick spam and cycling Blackout Kicks. Now that our Blackout Kicks cleave, but for the most part, I like to stick to that. If there's two targets and I'm trying to maximize damage, single target rotation, three targets, Spinning Crane Kick. If I don't have to do healing, that's what I'm going to do. But if I have to actually stop and do some healing, I'm going to start doing Rising Sun Kicks again, trying to get everyone topped up. So that is Mythic Plus, and Raid's not that much different, but I will be back for that in just a second. Alright, so finally we have the Raid, how to play Mistweaver in Raid. So uh, now, once again, Fallen Order was a big part of our healing in Shadowlands and Raid, especially Sanctum of Domination. I've said that before, but now our priorities have kind of shifted. It used to be just pressing a couple buttons on cooldown, which is still that. We're going to press Essence Font on cooldown no matter what, and we're going to, if we're playing Refreshing Jadewind, press that on cooldown no matter what. The more times we press these abilities in a fight, the more healing we're going to do. These are the most efficient healing spells that we have in our arsenal, so press those on cooldown so it maximizes the uptime of them, basically. So it looks like Refreshing Jadewind, I didn't even notice this, it has a 37-second cooldown. That kind of sucks. Okay, you know what? This late in the video, I'm already going to pull an audible. We're going to switch off of Refreshing Jadewind. It was good when we could spam it, but here it is not worth it, and it's too much mana. We're actually going to swap to... Yeah, we're going to swap to Yulon's Whisper over Mistwrap. So let's go ahead and do that. Age of Teachings, where was I? This, this, and this. Okay. So we pulled an audible. Basically, we're going to press Essence Font on cooldown. We want that button rolling. We're going to press Thunder Focus Tea on cooldown, and we also want to use this on Rising Sun Kick every single time. Unless you're using Secret Infusion, then there's some variables there, but Rising Sun Kick on Thunder Focus Tea every single time. So that is what we're doing. We're going to try, this is the game plan, okay? The game plan is to maximize the number of Rising Sun Kicks that we can press in a fight, and to maximize the hots we have out at any given time. This is a very easy way to simplify it so that you can understand the power of this build. Rising Mist gives a lot of healing, and it gives even more for the amount of hots you have out on your party or on your raid. So with as many hots as possible out on people and as many Rising Sun Kicks as possible, that is how we're going to optimize this build. So and Rising Mist is just a ton of healing, so we're definitely going to look to play around Rising Mist. That should be the easiest way to summarize it, but let's go ahead and jump into how we're going to do that. Also, I do want to quickly say, in doing so, maximizing the amount of Rising Sun Kicks we press will give us extra hots. It'll give us extra mists through here, and we'll be able to extend them with future Rising Mists, and that is just more of a reason to Thunder Focus Tea Rising Sun Kick. So our first Rising Sun Kick will put out a hot, and then our second one will extend that hot and heal that person even more. So there's a lot of synergy built into this. And that is why I kind of built this. So Essence Font will also, it just puts out, let's just say on average, I've seen it hit like 15 people, I've seen it hit 10, so I like to say it hits about 12 people. Shoots out bolts to them, does a chunk of healing, a nice little chunk, and then puts a hot on them. That also gets extended and also procs Rising Mist. So definitely want to press that on cooldown. So that's one way to, if we press that on cooldown, that's one way to extend the number of hots we have it on people, and also it'll be nice with the amount of Rising Sun Kicks. Fawn of Life, reducing our Thunder Focus Tea, will help with those extensions. So that's another way to do it. And then also just all the extra hots we're going to get out on people, these extra Renewing Mists, these this Rising Sun Kick adding Enveloping Mist, or Renewing Mist, I'm sorry, it's just going to add up to a lot of hots out on people and a lot of healing through Rising Mist. So that is a summarization. Is that a word? Summary? That's a summary of our playstyle. But we're still playing Ancient Teachings. We still, in the downtime when we don't have Essence Font to press, when we don't have a Renewing Mist charge, which remember we have two. If we don't have either of these buttons to press, we're gonna want to be cycling these three buttons. So it's gonna look like right now I have Essence Font and oh, I still have Refreshing Jade one. Hold on, let me change that. Right now I have Essence Font and I still have 2 stacks of Renewing Mist. I'm gonna Essence Font first. That is priority number one. It's off cooldown. I'm gonna press it. Then I'm gonna apply at least one of these charges. I want these charges to always be coming back. I want it on cooldown. That way I maximize the amount of times I press it. I never want to sit at 2 full charges of Renewing Mist. So we're just gonna go ahead and apply the other one. Essence Font's off cooldown. We're gonna press that, and then from here I am going to be punching and kicking. So let me get down to some ads, and oh, my voice just cracked. I am sick. Okay, I'm not going through puberty, I promise. Let's get down to some ads, and let's just go ahead and start on that. But yeah, it's really simple. It's a lot like what we've done before, but now we just can't rely on Fallen Order to do the healing. We just have to be more confident in our other spells. So I have Essence Font off cooldown. I'm gonna press it. I have some renewing charges. I'm gonna press those. Say I'm putting these on 2 different targets. Now I'm gonna Thunder Focus Tea, Rising Sun Kick, stack up some Tiger Palms. I'm gonna Rising Sun Kick again, and then I'm gonna cash in those Blackout kicks. And that's literally it. We Essence Font on cooldown, we cycle our kicks, and try to maximize as many hots as we can as possible. Now, really quickly, I do want to go over our cooldowns. It kind of sucks losing one of our 3 big major cooldowns, but well, especially because Yu'lon is much better when you use it alongside another cooldown. However, in raid you have multiple healers to help you out, so you can use Yu'lon alongside Spirit Link or something, just for an example. But Yu'lon, like I said, with all these talents that we're choosing, it it'll buff all of our healing. It'll buff all the healing that everyone's doing. Um, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna summon Yu'lon, and then we're gonna cast 4 Enveloping Mist to say we're doing this on 4 different targets. That's what we want to do. 4, and then we're going to Rising Sun Kick. Especially if we have Thunder Focus Tea, we're going to Thunder Focus Tea, then Rising Sun Kick. And then once that's done, we're going to do 4 more while Yu'lon's still out, trying to maximize that. What this is doing is it's letting her use her breath on everyone. Everyone's going to be taking buffed healing, and then those Rising Sun Kicks that we weaved in there between the 4 Enveloping Mists, it's going to activate Rising Mists, and those are going to be buffed. Those procs are going to be buffed. That's just the best way to use Yu'lon. Now, Revival, the reason why I said Yu'lon is better with other cooldowns is because imagine if I had cast 4 Enveloping Mists, Yu'lon spread, what would that be, 24 Enveloping Breaths out on my whole raid basically, and then I Revival. That would be a booster Revival, it would heal a ton, and that's why I like to say that Yu'lon is better with other cooldowns. But we don't have that luxury anymore, so Revival is it'll just basically top everyone up. It's good after a big slam to just press and bounce those health bars back up. Yeah, that's Revival. It's a really simple ability, honestly. Um, let's see, there is one thing that I want to touch on really quick, but I cannot think of it. So if I do think of it while I'm editing, I'll add it in. But that's basically the play style. For the most part, we want to try punching and kicking as much as possible. But in Mythic Plus, that is your number one priority, is prioritize damage and then do as much healing as necessary. Whereas in Mythic Plus or in Raid, our cooldowns are our number one priority. We got Essence Font. If you're using Refreshing Jade Wind, that is also there, and then Renewing Mist, and then from there eke in as much punches and kicks as you can. And that is really simple. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. If you have any comments, if you want to tell me how stupid I sound with this cold, let me know down below. And I am back. I'm back from vacation. I'm married. I don't have my ring on. I'm married, I promise. So I'm going to be making a lot more content, especially before and after November 28th when Dragonflight is released. So stay tuned for that. You're definitely going to want to hit subscribe. We are approaching 700, and I would like to get to 1,000, especially during Dragonflight. That would be awesome. So definitely hit subscribe. Hit like if you like the video. Hit dislike if you didn't. I think either way it helps me. So thanks, I guess. But yeah, that's it for the video. And oh, the thing I almost forgot is whenever you have this vivacious vivification, press Vivify. It's instant cast. In Mythic Plus and in Raid, it's just so much value, especially with all your hots you're gonna have out. So that's technically the last part of this guide is Mistweaver is an easy class to play, but it's a ton of fun. The amount of damage buttons that you get to press as a healer is just a ton of fun. So, highly recommend it, and hopefully you guys learned something. There's going to be a lot more gameplay where I'll be implementing what I spoke about today. But for the most part, this was just me talking to you, explaining things. So, I know it could be boring to some, but thank you guys for sticking out, and definitely hit subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and go. I've spoken enough. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.